Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 65 of Engagement in Peril by Dara Odoe Suk. Chapter 65 is titled Boost, Officer Candidate School. On the day that I had to depart from my new adventure in the East Coast, Mother and Benevolence took me to LAX in my Honda Civic, which I was leaving behind with Mother for safekeeping and storage. I'm gonna miss my sassy for a while. My flight to Newport was scheduled at 1300, so I got to the airport several hours earlier, and once there, I checked in and hugged my mother and girlfriend goodbye and told them that I would call them once I reached my destination in Newport. Our goodbyes were short and sweet, and we wished each other well, and I left and boarded the waiting plane that will take me to my destination. The trip to Rhode Island took a long time, and it sort of got on my nerve while flying on the stressful flight. There I was flying to the East Coast, losing 3 hours or so of time that could be spent with family and girlfriend, and not knowing what I was about to get myself into. I was stressed out over what I had gotten myself into and happy all at the same time, and I would eventually become a naval officer. My thoughts were running 1,000 miles a minute, and I was also thinking about my beloved Shinshin and wondered what he was doing and how he was feeling and what he was saying and what he would say if he knew I was heading to Boost to become an officer. The plane made several stops to pick up other passengers and refuel. One good thing that came out of this plane trip was that I met a very nice senior citizen couple who was interested about my goings and comings. We got to talking and such, and they told me that they were from the New England area and is familiar with the Naval Officer School there in Newport. The older man had been in the Navy and had his share of war stories and of good and bad experience while he was serving several tours in the United States Navy many years back. We shared some similarities about basic and boot camp and such, and what new technology we have now as sailors and such. And the good couple seemed to be proud of what I was doing, what I was about to endeavor. I also had told them about my dear good friend Shinshin and what we had gone through in this past life. The old man somewhat can sympathize with me and Shinshin's situation then. He mentioned that good long friendship are hard to find and even more difficult to keep. He told me that if it's meant to be that we be reunited, that it will eventually happen, no matter how long it may take, and to keep my head up and be hopeful for the best. The old man was quite wise then, passing on his learned experience and his wisdom that had come both with age and experience. They congratulate me on my selection to Boost and wish me well on my future endeavors. It wasn't until months later that I found out that they had sent me a postcard welcoming me to the New England area and wishing me the best of luck. Maybe it was their encouraging post now, maybe if their encouraging postcard had reached me earlier, I wouldn't have given up early during this hazardous endeavor that changed my goal of becoming a naval officer and ruined my chance of becoming CNO of the Navy. Those were good people that you met there on the plane, Dara. To think that they thought enough about you and that they even sent you a welcome postcard? It's amazing how they found you. You should have tried looking them up if you can find that postcard, of course. I did try to find the nice couple then who encouraged me to do well and wished me success and luck during my stint at Newport, but their postcard had no return address on it, and they didn't even sign their names. Thanks to them, all the same. I got to Providence, Rhode Island around 2200 that night. No one was there to sign to pick me up from the T.F. Green Airport in Warwick, so from there I took a yellow cab to the naval base in Newport. It was a pretty decent cab, a newer model Crown Victoria that smelled pretty good. The driver was a decent man who seemed very comfortable with a minority in the back seat of his vehicle. We made small talk. He was familiar with my destination and had driven several candidates to the same place previously. We chit-chatted about this and that, about our interests and semi-hobbies and such, and he was a very nice gentleman who made me feel comfortable in my new place. Once I arrived at my destination, the cab took me to the front step of my check-in area. The cab fee cost about $50 then, of which I was later reimbursed through PSD when I put in my trip expenses with the Rhode Island with the personnel department. Shortly after, I found a payphone and made a collect call to Mom and told her that I had arrived in Newport, Rhode Island, safe and sound, and also asked her to let my beloved Benevolence know that I was doing well and missed her as well. Once out the cab, Once out the cab and I had my seat bag with me, I checked myself into the boost command at the quarterdeck. After checking in, I was issued a room and several bed items, some linen, a white sheet cover, two pillowcases, pillows, and a gray cotton blanket. I had arrived at my destination about 10 days before classes were to begin, so I was assigned to the cleaning crew for that duration of my stay until class resumed. While on the cleaning crew, I met other candidate and newbies that were assigned to the working together. We swept, painted, and did bullshit things around the base, keeping things clean and in order. On my off time, I work out on my own, running around base and just exploring the new command. I would walk over bridges and made several visits to the Naval Hospital there. I didn't really make any new friends until later on in the month. The boost class finally convened in late July, and there were about 300 officer candidate school then. New students and personnel were from everywhere throughout the United States, from the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the civilian sector as well. And once everyone was checked in and adjusted to the change, we were then split up into 5 companies and battalion, almost like how field medical school in Camp Delmar had been done. I was assigned to the Echo Company, and each battalion had about 60 candidates for boost officer candidate school. You were already sluggish then, Dara. You seem to be out of it already. Guess it wasn't meant to be for you then. You should have stuck it through all the same. Think how disappointed Shinshin would have been if he knew how you screwed your life over from that instant there in Newport. Think about what he would have thought of you if he knew you were going to turn out the way you are now. I knew he would be so sorry for you, so sorry for his pathetic beloved. Unfortunately for me, I had a civilian for a roommate then. He was a fresh-faced, straight out of high school, young punk from the state of Florida, still wet behind the ears and a mama's boy. He was okay, though. He respected my space and was eager to learn from me. After we would team up and formulate to be our new command, we would then march out to the uniform shop and then issued our uniforms and supply. Khakis, whites, blues for all seasons, shoes, insignias. Besides getting our gears, we were also assigned duties, watch standing and cleaning schedule. The prior military were encouraged to teach and take the newbies under their wings and teach them military rules and regulations. Once we all got our gears and supply, I showed and taught my new roommate how to iron and fold his clothes and uniform, how to organize and apply in his limited space. He was somewhat familiar with some of the stuff that I was showing him. He had been in the Navy ROTC program during his high school year back in Florida. He was a quick learner and seemed pretty cool, and we got along okay for the most part. And as long as he didn't overstep his boundary and got in my personal space, I was quite personal and private then. I still am. But if my foot is being stepped on, then I'll say something about it. I don't even remember that kid's name. Who cares? He and I weren't roommates very long then, and you'll know why very soon. Officer candidate school classes started about a week later after we all got situated with our gears and supply and duties. We were all assigned 3 college preparatory classes a day, English, Math, Science, and some elective, and depending on how we scored from our placement exam, we were assigned to various levels and such. Besides classes, we also had to routinely do physical training and continue to learn military rules and regulations with management courses and such. We had new goals to reach to become a naval officer then. Besides learning leadership and management policy, we were required to pass strenuous physical agility and agendas. For example, I had to pass a swimming trial where the candidate had to float on his or her face with all his gear in the water for 30 minutes or so, at which I had a very difficult time trying to complete. And I failed the first trial. This was one of the pressure that overwhelmed me and eventually led to my dismissal from the boost program during that horrific time. Of course, there were other things that led me to where I was ultimately let go and stripped of my goals of becoming a naval officer and ended my hopeful wish of becoming CNO of the United States Navy. You yourself weren't in your right mind then, Dara. You were going crazy. You lost it mentally. You were quite stressed out and you were getting anti-everything then, and nothing or no one was able to calm you down. You were so far from your mother, Benevolence, and Shin Shin, and your loved ones. Only God knew what you would become from that day on. You were getting quite sick in the head, and then you would eventually let the soil sin devour you whole. Only Almighty God knew what was happening to you then, and no one was going to stop what was going to happen to you eventually. Nature had begun to take her course, and there was no way of stopping her from then on. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 65. Be on the lookout for chapter 66, titled Second Psychiatric Treatment. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.